Hi, and welcome to Lesson 14 in Algebra 1, or Video 2 in Week 5. If your teacher is Ms. Boatwright, Ms. Reynolds, Mr. McCrae, Mr. Strickland, Mr. Still, or Mr. Yates, you are in the right place. I'd like to remind you that you can stop this video at any time. If it's going too fast, stop it, rewind it, and replay it. If you already got a handle on what we're talking about, go ahead and fast forward it to the next section. Also, you can just go ahead and watch the whole thing and then rewatch it to make sure you got it right. Whatever you do, hold on and make sure that you get to the last slide so you can get the joke of the day. Today's learning target is I can find the roots, the y-intercept, and the vertex of a quadratic equation in standard form and use them to make a sketch of my parabola. Let's take a look at what we talked about last week. Roots are called the solutions or the x-intercepts, and they're the points where the parabola crosses the y-axis. The x-axis. Here's the x-axis. These two dots, right here and right here, are the roots. They're where they cross the x-axis. Also, at the x-axis, y is always equal to what? If you said 0, you are correct. The y-intercept is, on the other hand, where the parabola intersects the y-axis. This green line is the y-axis, and here is the y-intercept. I'd like to remind you that at the y-axis, x always equals 0. It goes right through 0, right through there. Today, we are going to talk about something new, something kind of cool. It's called the vertex. That's the very highest or the very lowest point on the parabola. There's the vertex. If it's at the very bottom, like this one is, it's a minimum. This one's a minimum. If we had a parabola that looks something like this, this is a maximum. This is a minimum. Very bottom, minimum. Very top, maximum. All right. Steps to finding the vertex. We have it in the standard form. We need to find the x point of the vertex, the very highest or the very lowest point. And this right here, x equals negative b over 2a, is the formula. We plug in the x value when we find out what it is, and then we get y. So let's try it here for this first one. Again, it's always helpful to me to write down my a, which in this case is 1 because there's nothing in front of the x squared. My b, which we can see is 10. And my c, which we can see is 8. Not a very attractive 8. I apologize for that. Negative b over 2a then is our formula, which means negative 10 over 2 times 1, which means negative 10 over 2. What's negative 10 divided by 2? I think you know that. It is negative 5. All right. Now we take this negative 5 and we plug it in to our handy-dandy formula. So we know that we're going to have x squared, so that means it's negative 5 squared, plus 10 times negative 5 plus 8. What that equals is negative 17. So our vertex is negative 5, 17, x and y. How about this next one? Let's see how you can do on this one. Remember, we have to plug in to the formula negative b over 2a. A equals 1 because there's nothing there. B equals 13. Negative 13. And C equals 7. I'll have to write it over here, I guess. C equals 7. All right. If we plug in to the formula, negative b over 2a, what we get is negative, and remember, b is already negative. We have to include that. If you ever have a negative b, you have to make it negative 13 over 2 times 1, which is a. Well, what's a negative times a negative? Two negatives make a positive, so it's 13 divided by 2, which equals 6.5. If we plug this 6.5 into our equation here, we would get a C that equals negative 35.25. A Y that equals negative 35.5. Y equals negative 35.25. If you're doing this at home, you would know that. So our vertex is x equals 6.5 and y equals negative 35.25. If it seems a little funny, don't worry about it. We're just starting to learn it. You'll have it down in no time. Well, let's put it all together. Here's our example. We first have to find the vertex, and then we have to plug in the x value of the vertex from the formula negative b over 2a to get y. So they're kind enough here to give us the roots and the y-intercept, but I'm going to go ahead and write down the a because I'm a creature of habit, the b, and the c of our example trinomial. So, negative b over 2a equals negative. Remember what I said about when your b is negative, that means it's two negatives, over 2 times 1. Negative 8, anyone? Does anybody know what that means? Negative 8? If you said positive 8, you are correct. 8 divided by 2 is 4. All right. Now, to find, so we have the vertex x, we have 4. To find y, we're just going to plug it into this right here. So we would be finding out what 4, oh my goodness, there's something wrong with this pen here, I think. 4 squared, oh my goodness, 4, let me start from scratch here because we seem to be having some problems. 4, and we're going to square that 4. And then we have negative 8 times 4 and plus 12. That roughly means 16 minus 32 plus 12, which, if you sit down and figure out, gives you -4. So -4 is our y coordinate for our parabola. So we're going to graph this. We're going to graph it all. This particular trinomial is positive, so its vertex is a minimum. So we are going to have to put a 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. Our roots are 6 and 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 2 and 0. Our y-intercept is 0, 12. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So our parabola looks something like this. Okay, here's another example that, if you'll notice, has a -x squared. Again, they're kind enough to give us the roots and the y-intercept. We have to figure out the vertex using the -b/2a formula. In this particular case, a equals -1, b equals -7, and c equals -10. So -b/2a would be -7/2 times -1, which is 7 over -2, which equals -3. It equals -3.5. That is our x coordinate, -3.5. Put it right up here. To get the y, we just plug this -3.5 into this formula. -3.5 squared -7 times -3.5 minus 10. You plug that into your calculator, what you come up with is 2.25. 2.25 is our y-intercept. So we're going to try and sketch this. Our roots are -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and -1, 2. Our y-intercept is 0, -2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And our vertex is -3.5. 1, 2, 3.5 is about right there, and 2.25. We're going to eyeball it at about right there. So, what kind of parabola does that make? Well, here's one side. It's a sketch, and here's the other. Why does it point down? It points down because our x squared is negative. In summary, to find the x-coordinate of a vertex, what do? We use the formula -b/2a. Then I plug in that number, which is the x, into the equation to find y. The vertex will be a minimum. If the graph opens up, it'll be a maximum. If the graph opens down. So if it goes like that, it's a minimum. If it goes like that, it's a maximum. What next? Well, you have to wait for the joke of the day. You can log into Khan Academy. You can log into Desmos. You can practice worksheets 14. You can try Google Homework 14. Or you can watch our next lesson, lesson 15 video. Here's today's question. Why aren't koalas actual bears? It's because they don't meet the koalifications. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.